had
It's Sarah's testimony, and I can summarize it a little bit in Sarah's text to me. She said that the Workforce Development Fund is our existing budget, so we would be forced to take money directly from the career and technical education centers for the study. It's unfunded study. I wrote the reasons for not doing it in my testimony, and she had Amanda send it to us. In short, the people, the stakeholders involved, including us, are in transition, including the state colleges. The quality of the report would be very low. Also, the Agency of Education has reached out to partner on broadening the scope and doing some of the work when it's the right time to do it. Passing the language as is not good. If you must pass something, we can give you new language, but it will need funding. And we still think it's the wrong time to be thoughtful about systems change. The colleges need at least a year, and the CTE systems need a year to readjust to the new normal. And I believe that is what, so I think they don't, it's not that they don't want to do it, it's just that the state college system with whom this is critically important to partner is in a bit of transition, and AOE, I guess all the three big partners are DOL, AOE, and state colleges. And they, I don't know if they're all asking to, you'll see it's under VDOL's, it's in the first section, VDOL's position on H159. They had a contractor lined up, but the contract was canceled in June of 20. So that the state could reallocate the fund, so that it was never spent on the contractor. And so there's no money. So we obviously have to, and anyway, you can see it.
Do you have any idea of how much $75,000 represents of their budget?
You'd need Sarah for that. I don't.
Okay.
Senator Clarkson, they said that we do agree this work needs to be done, but recommend that it's postponed for a year and not included in this year's bill. In future, it will also need funding. I don't know how much. The appropriation made in 159 would require labor to take existing CTE training and administration funds and reallocate them to fund the study, which I wouldn't think would be good.
So Senator Clarkson, I hate to do this to you, but you're our expert on workforce development and the CTE issue. I'm willing to go with your lead on this issue, knowing that if we take it out, we can give it back in conference after we hear the House's.
Right. I would follow that recommendation. Let me find out more so that we can, but they've given reasonably, I mean, we want this work done. We support this work. If it's if it's not a good time to be spending this money, and if people don't have the time right now, the three important stakeholders, then that is probably, it's not necessarily a wise moment. So let me find out about the wise moment, and then let's take it out, and then we can discuss it in conference.
Just ask though a question about process here. If I understood correctly, what this said is that we allocated a sum of money and that we passed a bill asking for certain things to be done with that money. The department canceled the contract to do it and use the money for someplace else, for something else. Is that what happened?
That's my understanding, is that it says right here, but the work was canceled before the contract was signed last summer, June of 20, so that the state could reallocate unused funds to close the budget gap.
So essentially what happened is we allocated money to do something, and we passed a bill asking for something to be done. The department canceled the contract and didn't do it, and then used the money for something else. Is that a good process?
That's a terrible process, but what's missing there, I think, is that there's a lot of stuff being done with joint fiscal committee in terms of reallocations of funds. And the governor
Right.
was asking for various agencies to give back money that they felt they didn't need or couldn't use for whatever reason. So I'm not sure that it's safe to say that they use the money for a different purpose or carrying money in that fund that we had previously appropriated for this purpose. I don't recall when we asked them to do the study last time that we actually gave them any money to do it. We just said, absorb it through your budget.
Well,
Is
that's
that-
really what I'm asking is, was there a process in which, and that process may have been going to JFO and doing something different. And that, I understand. I just wanted to know, was it something that was done unilaterally without going through a proper process so that the people who should know about it and approve it did in fact do so? That's my question.
And you'd have to have an insider for that. You'd have to have Sarah here for that. But I think that the reason that they want to wait is that since June of 20, the state college system, the state pre-K to 12 education system, including career and technical education centers, and the adult career and technical education system have endured significant changes. And these systems need time to rebound. It's unlikely that a comprehensive and informed review, engagement, and strategic planning process can be conducted during a time when these fragile systems are enduring recovery and restructuring. We do not expect that policymakers or administrators would be able to gather reliable information to direct structural changes. We do agree that this work needs to be done, but recommend that it be postponed for a year. And that it will need funding. So it is,
So
it's hard.
I think what you're saying, Senator Clarkson, is the administration saying at this particular time, this study is not a good idea. And I think what Senator Brock is saying, which I would like to know as well, did we actually appropriate money for this that is either still around or was it diverted to some other purpose? And how did they manage to do this if this was a specific charge, and where is that money now? I think we want to know the answer to that regardless. Why don't we have Sarah Buxton talk to us first thing tomorrow morning about this? Nathan, if you can have her.
She is not available. She's on vacation this week.
Mr. Chair, if it's of any help to you, I look back at Act 80 and there is not a separate appropriation in that act for this work. It was charged in that act to the Department of Labor, and whether they used a consultant was permissive at that time. So I think it was intended that they would do the work, and if they hired somebody, they would absorb the cost of it. Again, there was not a separate appropriation specific to this work.
Right. Thank you, David.
Another alternative we could do is we could just accept this language and put the due date for everything out a year as they're suggesting.
Why don't we do that?
Make them eat the cost, because we had originally said they should eat the cost. And they're saying the work is necessary, but we should put it out for a year. And then we can go to conference and argue about it.
So that's a good, I think that's a good idea.
It's important also to note that the way this has come to you from Commerce is that there will be a preliminary report next January, and a final report is not due until December 15th of next year. So if you want to kick those dates out further, then you're already looking at preliminary in the upcoming January 15th, final next year's December 15th.
I would suggest that we could get an update on where they are with this. This is an important issue that we've long flagged. I think it would be great to get an update in January or February for this committee on where they are with this, because they all want to do this. Everybody wants to do it. So where they are with it and what their plan is for going forward. And then I would have the report due January of 23. Is that the December was December 15th, David, they put it in? I'm
For
trying
the
to,
final, yep, for the final, December 15th, 22.
and is that, nobody,
Well, I think
Nobody
what we
has
want,
moved.
I think what we want, if people are okay with it, is to essentially not have them spending very much money on a consultant uh, or using a lot of their resources in fiscal year 22. They could give us some outline of their thinking, or we can just have them come in next January, but just push this whole thing back a year in every case. And then in the House probably will want it done faster. They'll make their case to us, and we can continue to discuss it in a conference committee. But we're basically not giving up on the idea, but we're paying attention to the arguments that Sarah's making as
Right.
to why the timing is not great.
So on page, sorry, David, but on page 16 in 2, little b, it says January of 23, they shall report to us. I don't see a December date. I see the January 22 update and a 23 the final report. So if we could,
Are you looking at subsection C, report?
I'm looking at the appropriation. Am I just like on another planet? I thought I was.
I think you.
I am. Oh my God. So you're right. You're absolutely right. I apologize. So we're back at section. What section or what page are we going to? Oh, page. I got it. Page 4. I apologize. You're right. Too much, too soon.
Okay.
So can I say it back to you? You basically want them to provide a preliminary status report January of next year. When do you want the final written report due?
I would say January 23.
Yeah, I would agree. January 23, that gives them the time to do it. It's a priority. And I think they acknowledge that it's a priority. I mean, it's a whole piece of our getting adults upskilled and everybody more productively employed if they want and can be, and really
Okay.
trying to pull all our adult education opportunities together. And
Let's move on to workforce, unless David has further questions for us. Let's
good. Thank you.
move on to section 10.
Can I just take a second just to understand what we just said that we're going to do? We're going to change, and this is on page 4 or page 5. We're going to change the report to be due January 15, 23. Is that correct?
Right.
And then are we changing then the date of a final report to December of 23?
No, we're changing an update. We're going to get an update next January, all of us, on what they want to do with this. And
By
then
next January, you mean January of 22 now?
right, exactly. So we can have a further discussion once things are beginning to settle. And with the state colleges and with AOE and then we'll get at the moment we'll get a full report on how we're going to align all these efforts in January of 23. But that gives us obviously time next session to change things if we want.
So we're getting a preliminary report January of 22, as it says right now in the bill, or January of 23?
I think
I
there's
thought
a
you said
difference.
January of
I
23.
think we just need an update.
I think it's, yeah, I'm not sure about this first report. I guess what I envision this first report being more just saying that they've sort of met with all the stakeholders, coordinated how they're going to go forward, what information they need to collect, whether they're going to do a contract through an RFP or a consultant, or they're going to do it themselves, just so they're thinking about doing that. And the real work is going to happen in fiscal year 23 with a report back in, I guess it would be January of 24. The
Well,
final.
basically, this whole paragraph, this whole piece on page 5 would need to be updated to reflect those things, because if you just put those dates in, you still have, when are they going to issue a request for proposals and hire a consultant?
Right.
Right.
David, I assume David will clean that up for us so it reflects what our intent is. But essentially what we're doing is we're putting this whole thing off a year, but having some, at least having them think about how they're going to do this and let us know that. I'm not sure we need that report next January. We can just
Yeah,
have
we
them
don't
come
need
in.
a preliminary.
Uh,
I think we need we need an update on how do they envision going forward with this?
I hear everything you're saying, and I think I have it. I just triple check the dates. All right. I understand there's going to be 2 check-ins. There will basically be what I phrase it as: provide a preliminary update on the status of the RFP and stakeholder engagement processes. That's the first thing. And that happens when?
January of 22.
Okay. And then they will submit a final written report on everything on
January 24.
24, 23.
22, no, excuse me, 20.
I think it should be 23.
23.
And I
And
think,
if I understand what they are asking to do, they're asking to take all the things that we've asked them to do in the bill as passed by the House and move it forward 1 year. Isn't that what they're asking us?
Yes.
Yes, I
And
guess.
so if that's the case, the RFP to hire a consultant, as it says now, September 21, would be moved to September 22. Right?
Correct.
So they can't come back to us at the beginning of 22 and tell us what they're going to do, can they?
I
Well,
think,
that's why I'm saying I'm not sure that we need any kind of preliminary report in January 22. What I envisioned is basically them taking the time to put in writing their latest thinking about how they're going to go about meeting this task in the next fiscal year, and not just random thoughts, but having called people saying, well, you participate, all the people they have to connect with, and just, have them do an initial workup of what they're planning. They may not even do an RFP in September of 22. They may decide we're going to do this in-house. I think that's a choice they have. So, we can write something very thin for January of 22, or we can move that out to April of 22. I'm not looking for a lot, but I just want to be sure that they're thinking about this project and don't get to the following September and say, oh, we got to start getting this ready for 3 months from now in January of 23 with a full-fledged report. That's all I'm thinking. I don't know if Senator Clarkson is looking for more.
no, I agree.
To Senator Brock's point, though, the House language mandates that they issue the RFP and hire the consultant by September of this year.
Then I don't think we want a notion of what the plan is until we get an update and a plan. So maybe what we ask for is an update with a developed plan for us to then enable.
Well, wait a
in
second.
Jan-
Wait a
in
second.
next session.
Wait a second. You're saying, I thought we made it clear that everything was going to be put back a year. So the RFP and all of that stuff would not be in September of 21. It would be in
In
September.
September
of
22.
Right. Yeah,
Right,
that's,
but then but you also said that you wanted the status in next January about how they're going to go about it in whether they're going to do the RFP. And this says that they have to have done the RFP and hired somebody by this September.
No,
So by
We're gonna change
September, so
that.
even if you push that out a year, you have to push the preliminary back a year and then the final back a year, which gets to the chair's point of being all the way to 2024, right? Doesn't matter.
Why
It
don't
sounds
we-
like, should I just add a year to all of the dates? Would that be the easiest thing to do?
It could be.
What you're asking for, I believe, Mr. Chair, is to add another report. You know, in addition, if we take what's in this document, we move it all forward a year, you're still asking for yet another report as to their thinking about what they're going to do, whether they're going to issue an RFP and so on, and to do that somewhere before September of 22, if we push this back for a year.
Bingo.
You're asking for January of 22 for them to tell us something about what they're planning to do.
Bingo.
I just want to make sure that that's clear.
it. You got it. That's right. Let's do that. Let's move that January 22 back to April 1st of 22. And just write something up, David, that, we're just trying to get what they've been thinking about, what they plan on doing. Just have them write something. It's not elaborate. I just don't want them to be totally forgetting about this for another year.
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
Okay. So let's move on to.
Yep, we have 10 minutes.
Okay, so we're now on section 10. This is all about the Vermont State Colleges. There's no money in here. All that money is in the budget bill. This is a lot of findings. Do we want to keep these findings? As far as I can tell, the heart of section 10 is on page 18, where it says the purpose.
It's very straightforward. It's one sentence. I mean, in B, under purpose.
Yeah. I don't know what this does. I mean, I'm not that familiar with what they put in for the Vermont State Colleges in the budget, but I don't know how this really helps that budgetary language.
So I can give you 30 seconds that might help you understand the context. So
Thank
the state colleges came to the House with a proposal of about $21 million for about 6 different programs that would run through the colleges to allow undergraduate, graduate, and incomplete, degree pursuants to finish or continue their work. And they ultimately wanted this to be able to be funded through ARPA. All of that, the programs, the money, and the findings were in this House bill originally. On the last day, they moved the money over to the budget. And so they kept the findings here and then the purpose statement to keep the nexus to the ARPA funds, but they wanted to have the dollars themselves moved over to the budget. So now you've got this sort of hanging chad of findings and intent here, but the money and the program's there.
Well, it will be like a number of other things in H-159. I mean, this is consistent with a lot of the rest of our work here with the economic recovery grants, with the capital investment catalyst grants, and the tech-based innovation and tourism.
Okay. Well, I hope there's sort of like a budget behind the budget, because this purpose section doesn't give a lot of direction of how they're going to spend $60 million. So I assume that when they defended that $60 million to the Appropriations Committee, they put some spreadsheets together for various programs and how they're going to do that. But do we want to keep in we can cross-reference the, to try funding in the big bill. Should we say, through ARPA? I guess we need to see today whether it's all through ARPA or not.
I would leave it as is, unless there's a reason from the appropriations committee side to reference it. This gives them the flexibility to fund it as they are able, and I believe it's through ARPA. But we can clarify that with the chair of appropriations.
Okay, I don't mind. I mean, I'm not a big fan of findings, but if people want to leave all this stuff in here, it's,
I think it's all good. I'd leave it.
okay. Let's move on to micro businesses. We lowered this to 1.5, given that H315 had 500,000 in it. I'm not sure we need any language changes.
So there's 200,000 in B and 2 million in C. Where does that, how should that change manifest to reduce the funds?
The number C should change to 1.5.
Okay, and the 200,000 stays the same?
Yeah, they appropriated that on their own.
That I think they did independent of us.
Right, they did. And they did it through general fund.
Right.
Okay. We have 7 minutes to do BIPOC and seed capital. The only thing we have to revisit so far is the thing with Chris Cochran. We took care of the Sarah Buxton thing. Was there anything else we punted on? Just try to, why don't we just stop there? I don't want to push everybody right up to the 11:30 thing. We'll pick up tomorrow with these last 2 or 3 sections, and then we'll go to the 2 big issues of recovery grants and capital investment funds. Okay, so we'll see you all on the floor at 11:30. Well, for the, what's it called? The informational session at 11:30.
Caucus of the whole information on the big bill on H439, the budget.